Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. This is our Ring of Honor show for the week. My name is George Coles. This is my tag team partner, 8 Ball.
Thanks, Skull. Gary Rhodes, everybody.
And the first match of the night. Well, before we go on to the matches, we want to let it be known here that we're reviewing the show. So it's out of continuity because the show was taped before the internet pay-per-view. We do know the results of the internet pay-per-view, and it does conflict with some of the show. So before we get into that, we know ahead of time that there is confliction. The first match of the night is Rhett Titus versus Eddie Edwards.
Pretty decent match. I liked it.
I thought it was a really solid opener. Both guys I like. I see a really good future for Rhett. It kind of got sidetracked a bit when Kenny King left, but they seem to be focusing back on him a little, giving him a little bit more in the company. And we'll talk more and more about that in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Well, this is the most I've seen him on television. First time I've seen him on television in a long time, too. Eddie Edwards, though, the Achilles lock is just sick.
Yeah, the half crab with the stomp to the back of the head.
Jeez, man.
Jeez Louise.
Very impressive.
Yeah, he's an impressive guy. I think he's the better of the American Wolves.
The thing is, he's got more size than Richards.
Just as talented.
Just as talented. But the thing is, that Achilles lock makes him look more vicious. Because if you look at him, he just looks like a average guy.
I think the difference between Richards and Edwards is it doesn't come as natural to Edwards as it does to Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Richards looks more natural in the ring, where Edwards, it looks like he has to train and train to get to where he is. And I'm not saying that Richards doesn't. But Edwards, it doesn't look like... It
doesn't look like he's at home there quite as much.
It's kind of like
Richards.
It's kind of like, remember when Malenko and Guerrero were together as a tag team before even the Horsemen?
Mm-hmm.
And Malenko was more robotic, but he could do just everything else. And Malenko and Benoit, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I said Guerrero, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
And Benoit was more of the natural, more of the... You could see the intensity, the charisma was easier for him. And Malenko eventually got it, too. But kind of a similar parallel, in my opinion.
And Malenko is one of the best workers of all time.
Yep.
I really like Edwards, though. I think that this guy has a bright future. I see a lot of things in him. He's, 28 years old, so...
He's already a Triple Crown winner in Ring of Honor.
Exactly.
Sky's the limit for the kid. Now, coming off of that, we had a Woman of Honor match. Mia Yim, formerly Princess Mia of the Embassy, versus Mischief. This is, I think, the second or third time that they've shown Mischief recently?
Yeah, I think they had her last week, too, wasn't it?
I believe so. I think it looks to me like they're starting to center their women's division around Mischief, which isn't a bad thing because she's a pretty good worker.
Yeah, I honestly think she's... I mean, if they did a makeover on her, she wouldn't be a bad-looking chick. But, you know, her in-ring ability is awesome. Yeah. And so is Mia Yim's. This was a great match. I honestly think this is one of the best women's matches I've seen in a long time.
Exactly. And I'd like to see, I know they borrow a lot of Shimmer wrestlers for their Women of Honor division. I would actually like to see them add a women's championship.
I think they have enough competitors to do it.
I mean, why not? And, you know, to me, if they could add a women's championship and have good women's matches, unlike the other two companies, one that has no good women's matches and the other that's
hit or miss,
that they really could carve themselves a niche, because people do like women's wrestling.
Oh yeah, I like any kind of wrestling. Hell, I like midget wrestling.
Is it midgets? Is that the proper term?
Well, that's what they called it, so that's what I'm calling it. I grew up on it. That's what it's called.
Are you saying the politically correct thing, man?
Shut up.
Shut up, Nick.
No, that's my line.
I look like him.
Yeah. Like when you have the beard and stuff? Shut up, Meg. Anyways, I thought that was an excellent match.
It was a good match. It really was. And then we come back. We did our our Inside Ring of Honor recap thing. Nothing really special was said. You know, kind of laying forward what's going forward from here. Then we had the four-man, four-corner survival of the night. Roderick Strong versus Matt Hardy versus Davey Richards versus Michael Elgin. Solid match. What about 20 minutes or so?
Non-stop 20 minutes too. I mean, it was a non-stop match.
It wasn't a spot fest either.
No, either. That's the thing. It's surprising me. I mean, they really, the other three really made Hardy look viable during the match.
Would you say this was Matt Hardy's best match in Ring of Honor?
Yeah, because he was barely in the match.
I thought he did good when he was in there.
Yeah, the moments he was in there, he did good.
I thought he did well, but look at the level of competition he has. Roderick Strong and Davey Richards, two former champions, and Michael Elgin, who's solidified himself as a championship contender. I mean, I think the level of talent, along with Hardy, looked like this was a match that he actually is starting to give a shit more about being in Ring of Honor, you know?
He's going to have to. I mean, this is where he's at, and you know, he's going to have to make the best of a situation. That could be a great situation. Ring of Honor is one of the newest I mean, it's the newest of the three.
Well, it's about the same age as TNA.
But it's got a better product.
Exactly.
It's all about wrestling. He has to get out of the whole theatrical thing and quit whining about his past and all that good stuff, and quit thinking he's the second coming of Bret Hart, and actually put his boots on and start wrestling.
You know what I really liked? I liked the angle they worked, where he had who was it he had pinned? Did he have Elgin pinned?
He had Richards pinned.
He had Richards pinned, but the referee was checking on Elgin because Elgin was injured, and he had him pinned, and he had it for the 3 count. He stands up and he looks at Nigel McGuinness, who was on commentary, and the whole running thing was that he needed to show Nigel that he could win without cheating to be considered for a TV title match. And he said, "What do you want me to do, Nigel? I won. I had the match won. It's the ref. The ref wasn't in place."
Which is true. He did have it won.
Oh, it's damn true.
But Elgin ended up going over. He hit his nasty buckle bomb on Roderick Strong.
Well, he had the buckle bomb followed by the spinning power bomb.
This combination, I like that combination, to be honest with you.
I think it's a good combination. It's way better than the 6-hit combo of Queer.
Exactly.
That's a shout out to our friend Lou.
I like Elgin. I think Elgin could be a menacing force if they wanted to make him a heel again. You know, not with Truth Martine or anything like that. I think just a straight up badass heel.
Just a destroyer.
Exactly. I think
kind of like a Brock Lesnar of ROH.
I think he could pull it off.
I think he could too. Two of these guys are former world champions. Now let's go into our question of the week from last week. Our first ever Ring of Honor question of the week was, who do you think was the best Ring of Honor world champion? Now before we get into our opinion, we got an answer from one of our friends, Triple Fallible. Question of the week. If you're talking pure wrestling ability, it's Bryan Danielson, hands down. For the complete package, however, I have to go with the current champ. P.S. Thanks for covering Ring of Honor, not as glitzy as the competition, but when it comes to wrestling, it crushes them.
True.
You know, it's damn true.
Are you channeling Kurt Angle today, or what? All up in his head, huh?
A little bit. I'm going to squirt you with a milk truck later. Anyway, who do you think's been the best Ring of Honor world champion? I know you haven't seen as much of Ring of Honor, but you've seen enough.
I really like Steen. I think this guy is a top competitor for the future, and he'll probably be one of the best champions of all time. But I'm going to go with the guy that really got me into watching some of the tapes that you showed me to get me into watching Ring of Honor. I'm going with CM Punk.
You like the whole angle with the Summer of Punk where he held them up?
Mm-hmm.
I like that too. That was a good championship run. I'm going to go kind of with what he said here. He went with a little bit of an amalgamation of Steen and Danielson. To me, it's Bryan Danielson all the way. Up until the point where Bryan Danielson left Ring of Honor, he was the guy that I thought of when I thought Ring of Honor. To me, he was there from the beginning. He finally got a chance to run with the championship. He did not disappoint when he had it. A very close second, though, would be Samoa Joe and his run. But Bryan Danielson, a.k.a. Daniel Bryan now, I thought he was the absolute best Ring of Honor champion. I think his style was exactly what Ring of Honor is. No one was more of a Ring of Honor champion, in my opinion. Joe was too, don't get me wrong. But Bryan Danielson other than being one of my favorite wrestlers, I thought he was a perfect champion for this company. Kind of like Hulk Hogan was a perfect champion for the Rock and Wrestling era. Steve Austin was a perfect champion for Attitude. Bryan Danielson, to me, was the perfect champion for that period in Ring of Honor.
I figured you would have said Daniels. So right now he's one of my favorite reasons. He's the only reason I watch. Yeah,
Christopher Daniels never won it.
I thought he had it.
No.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, he never won.
I know he was there, but that was back before I watched, so that's my bad. Should have been a champion there.
Yeah. There's a couple times he could have won over, but another underrated one while we're on it is James Gibson, Jamie Noble.
Yeah.
He had a solid run there as champion.
I always liked Jamie Noble too. He was, for his size, he was just so technically gifted though.
Yeah. But that was a good answer from our friend Triple Fallible also. I liked your answer as well, Gary. Now, coming off of that, since we did the best world champion at Ring of Honor, who do you think has been the best tag team champion? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on our Facebook. Hit us up on Twitter. Put it down where?
Down there.
Right down there in the comments. And we'll get with you guys next week on what we think on that subject. But overall, on a ratings of 1 to 5, what would you give this, Gary? 5 being the best, obviously.
You know what? It was a short show. It didn't have a lot to it, but it kept me interested. I'm going to go with 4.
I'm 5 now. After the crap that I seen last week in wrestling, this was a nice, refreshing change. This was the best televised wrestling show of the week, and everything on here was good. I can't look at anything on here and look negative on it.
Well, the thing is, that's what I was saying. This year really made me glad I'm still a wrestling fan. After all the bullshit we've watched last week, you're correct, but we gave everything else a 1. Like I said, if it was a little bit longer, I would give it a 5.
I give it a 5. It is what it is. We know it's an hour-long show, so.
Yeah.
But I base it on merit. I gave it a 5. You give it a 4. Still very high ratings either way you look at it. But basically, that's all I got to say. Is there anything you need to add?
That's it.
My name is George Coles.
I'm Gary Rhodes.
This has been Heel Heat.